24 teams, 60 matches of Predecessor, and a whole lot of ass whooping led us to day 2 of PCC8 Swiss Stage. Now 8 teams have fallen out of the tournament, and today the other 16 teams fight for their spot in the top 8 main event. But how do we get here? It all started at round 1 with the first match of the day showing VP Salesman and Bronze Army.
And the fact that they are up 0-12 currently. This is going to be tough. Stark with the flash into Maguli. He recognizes how important this kill is.
Oh, but steps back for the 3.
The Salesman landed the deal and moved on 1-0. Round 2, Rogue and Hive battled it out in a really back and forth match.
Dante is ready for it. He knows that he just needs to keep them at bay. There's the Colosseum on top to keep them at bay, and the Primal Fangtooth goes the way of Rogue.
Now ultimately, Rogue was able to sneak out of that with a win. Now round 3, we saw Rogue once again, but this time up against Radis Maximus, who gave him a pretty dang close game.
On the Colosseum, it just does right at the last second before it falls down. Ponce getting a stack on the Colosseum.
Next up, Flow State and Bad Timing locked in, but F8 proved their mastery in round 4.
Now Zars is in trouble, gonna try and run away from this fight, but low HP, the big steel slam and the Coliseum hits on top, but is it gonna be enough? The reversal of fortune hits back, and that's gonna be a double kill going towards F8.
And finally, round 5 gave us a 50-minute banger from Professors and reigning champs Dirty Lake and the boys.
Sunballs, he gets it, but can anybody get up there close enough to be able to do it? The ventilator does come out, but he's immediately gonna get hooked.
Oh, right to him! Skewer comes through and Survivor puts him down! Happy, down from the skies, rains death and destruction, but Survivor will walk through it all!
That's game.
1 HP! No members of Dirty Lake and the boys are alive!
Now, thank you so much to all the teams that participated, and for the ones that are still here, get ready for another day of exciting Predecessor competition only here on the Prime Championship Circuit.
Sunballs.
Here are the rules for PCC8 Swiss Weekend. On day 1, 24 teams will compete for a total of 5 rounds. During each round, teams will play against other teams with similar records. After the 5th round, the top 16 teams will continue onto day 2. On day 2, these 16 teams will play 5 more rounds, until we have our top 8 teams. These 8 teams will compete in the main event.
Greetings, gamers. Welcome to Prime Championship Circuit 8, Day 2 of the Swiss Stages. I am saying hi to you from the location of NA West, strong and proud. My name is Ardog with the Triple Gs, and I'm so honored to be your host in today's event. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining us here at the PCC to witness the greatest and the best of the best in Predecessor gaming. Many have come to conquer the crown, and only one team will rise above all to claim the title of PCC champion. 24 teams have come to compete and only 16 remain. But after today, we'll only have 8 to move on to the main stage, which will be held July 27th and July 28th. There are only 3 days left here at the PCC, including today. The meta continues to evolve and change with each patch, and the players you'll see today continue to push the boundaries of what's possible in the realm of Pred. But only one team can be crowned PCC champion. Cheer on for your favorite players or teams, because these teams have scrimmed countless imaginable amounts of hours. We wouldn't be here without them. We see those teams looking for scrims on the daily. But esports isn't always just about the games. It's also about the community we build and the shared love we have for competition. Take a seat to witness the objective steals, first bloods, and of course, the solo bolos. Brace yourselves for the Prime Championship Circuit, where Predecessor champions are born. Welcome to PCC 8. Let's start off by introducing previous PCC and Fang Booth champion, caster, and now desk analyst, Tang. How are you?
Yo, what's up? Happy to be here. Usually you only out at the background of those games. Now I get a bit of an analytics role with Joe and R-Dog. I'm really happy to share the desk with you two.
Of course, we have Joe, yours truly, who you've seen from yesterday as well. Your favorite YouTube content creator, offlaner extraordinaire, and cooker of all the builds. How are you, Joey?
I'm doing great. Yesterday was a lot of fun, and we're now going to be seeing the top 16 team try to secure the spot in the actual tournament. So I'm pretty excited to see the really matches ahead of us right here.
Yeah, but before we get into the games, we'll actually be playing a little bit of a game ourselves. It's called Do You Know Your Players? Let's hear it from Choice on how it's gonna work.
All right, what's up, everybody? This is Choice, your producer guy. So we have a mini game for the desk. I'm going to throw up a little pop-up here. It's going to have 4 players' names and 4 of their life achievements or something they've done in their lives. And the desk is going to have to figure out which corresponding player to which achievement, I guess you could say. So let's throw it up right now. And go ahead, R-Dog. Take it away.
First question. Do you know our players? Oh, I guess this is like you're matching these 4 player names with 4 of their achievements. I'll start off with you, Tang.
Okay, so is a transient soccer player between NA and EU? I think that one is pretty clear. I don't have a sock to actually show who it is, but I think we can just push that over to the D spots. Then seems to be pretty obvious for the first one.
That's correct.
So I'm gonna skip over involved because I know my boys Pinsel and Wingo both very, very well. Can I just do 2 at once, or is that now okay?
That is correct.
Okay, I'm gonna do 2 at once. Okay, so Pinsel is always talking about bowling, so obviously he's gonna be going to the 2 right there. And then Wingo, he also talked about soccer a whole lot. He's actually really pumped about the current tournaments right now, so he's definitely a 1 right there.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Nailed it.
So we've got Wango, we've got, I think Tang, you already said Wango. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, we've got Wango and Pinzo. So we still have Lauber and Involve left for you, Tang.
Yeah, I mean that Lauber actually was an upcoming hot talent. I don't think that is a secret either. So that's the halftime show interview in 2022 Heroes of the Storm Community Clash that goes over to Lauber, and Involve did play for Team Oxygen, I believe, or Team Reborn in that first PAX in 2017 in Paragon. Rest in peace. So yeah, I think those 2 should go respectively like that.
Yay! You did it.
Do we get brownie points for
yes, I will make you a plate of brownies as soon as possible.
Yes. Now that we've played a little fun game, did you guys like that, chat? There's a little bit of like a little game that we played, because I know we see these names maybe in our games, and then now you're seeing it on your screen. So this is another way for you guys to get to know the players. But now it's time to talk about the first game we'll be watching today. So all of these teams are starting off 0-0, but for our first game, we will be watching the Doctors and Burgerflip. We know Burgerflip is a team that was kind of put together last second, but the Doctors used to be the chefs, but with a slight roster change.
Yeah, they used to have a Colt, now they got the Q, changed the ADC around, now we have Q in the ADC role. Colt was subbed out for this one. They are on a pretty good record. They did win all of their games apart from one that was against Mind the Gap, so they are 4-1 in terms of the games played yesterday. So we're definitely expecting great things from them, especially from the mid lane. I think Seismic in the mid lane has been proven to show really good results as long as you don't pick counters for him.
Yeah, so for Burgerflip, they kind of have a walking performance yesterday, only gained 2 wins and 3 losses, but I still think that's still pretty impressive considering that there's a very last minute kind of get together team because Winter Gamer had to do it last minute, like team swap. He still wanted to play, so he's like, okay, he hit up all of his homies and then just kind of got the team right at the last very second. But the one thing that kind of notes about the strategy, especially with Winter Gamer, is that Winter Gamer kind of likes the jungle pick, especially like Rampage, which we really haven't seen that all from yesterday. I think Rampage is a decent pick, but you have to play for a specific reason, and I think Winter Gamer is the kind of guy that wants to enable his team to kind of carry the games. But also means that, like, from what I saw yesterday, if Dual Lane's doing bad, then Winter Gamer is doing bad, and then the whole team just kind of falls apart from that. And there's a lot of strong duos in this tournament, so I think if Burgerflip doesn't secure an early lead on the Dual Lane, they're gonna really struggle in this upcoming match right here.
That's going to be a little bit of a struggle for them as we head into this draft between the Doctors and Burgerflip, because they're going to go against Zihi and Cure instead of Cold this time around. So this is a little bit of a roster change. I know before the chefs, which was what they were called in the past, they focused on their duo lane, and now that they've got Seismic over in the mid lane, they can also play around him this time around. So curious to see what kind of strategies they'll pull up their sleeves. But going into the draft here, Tang, what are you expecting to see in terms of heroes?
Yeah, so I think it is actually Doctors also playing pretty well around the dual lane. I think Cure is one of those hyper carries that can go pretty demon in those games. Like, he can also run it down a tiny bit, so they need to be careful with that as well. But I think they definitely have the leg up. I think they want to play something aggressive. Usually teams favor something like the Decker, and then you combine that maybe with a Kira. Maybe if you don't feel confident enough, you go for a Drongo instead, have a bit more peel back, and then just sort of decent mid matchup, right? Usually you want to counter pick the off lane instead, make sure that mid lane is stable at least, get a few rotations in. That's what Seismic is known for traditionally anyways. But I think in terms of draft, as we hop straight into it, I think you want to reduce volatility. We see the Ceres being banned away by Burgerflip. I think for Doctors though, I think they want to ban something like the Iggy, something that is not like mechanically super skillful. I think they are the favorites. I think they want to abuse that, right? Get rid of sort of heroes that kind of play themselves.
Yeah, the Ceres ban is a little bit interesting too, coming from Burgerflip, because I think the offlane jungle really don't place on Ceres. I touched on earlier how Winter Game is more like a tank play. He like play Rampage and Richter, and he sometimes play like a Crunch. He's not really like a brutally kind of character. So I think for him at least, Ceres is not really a comfort pick, and Ceres right now is like the most popular in the jungle role. So it's kind of like, I don't want to play a pick that's not comfortable for me. Let's just go ban it out. But there's also a limitation on what other picks to be trying to ban out as well. And Doctor is actually going for the Quan ban. We haven't really seen a Quan first ban in this kind of half. I think that's sort of target towards like Burgerflip a little bit more specifically, but also leaves room for well being up the tail. But Burgerflip is actually just going to pick up Decker first in the draft.
Yeah, Decker first, making her a priority. You highlighted this earlier, Tang. We know how Decker can be played offensively and defensively, and we showed her on broadcast because a lot of teams played her, so we know what she's capable of.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's no like easy pick into Decker. It's hard to actually counter pick her, and she did get her damage scalings reduced a tiny bit in that latest patch, but I think it might not have been enough, especially looking at those pick rates we've seen so far. And I think Decker in general like disables a lot of heroes from being played. Like something like a Steel as a support is really hard to play into a Decker. But I think for Doctors, they should probably look towards the jungle offlane pool instead. We see Aurora being picked up together with the Gideon. A lot of offlane heroes have already been banned out. Kwang and Ceres off the board. Aurora pick makes a lot of sense in that regard. The Gideon pickup, always one of those heroes that Seismic just shines at.
Yeah, the Wawa is definitely not to no one's surprise. Like she was like have a really good performance yesterday, both in offlane and jungle. So it's kind of like, yeah, sure you got the deck good, but we're gonna pick up the other best option, and that is a Wawa. And then the game is just gonna really empower Doctor to have a very strong presence in mid lane, because for the most part on Burgerflip's side, the mid laner is Pesto is like decent, right? He can kind of hold his own for the most part, but against the Gideon, right, it's gonna be a really hard million to actually kind of like bully out and try to kill kills on, especially as a jungler for Burgerflip, right? They want to try to like get a little bit lead on the mid lane, also focusing on duo, but you have a Gideon mid right there. Well, good luck trying to gank a Gideon for the first like 15-20 minutes, right? So it's gonna leave up a lot of safety net for Doctors on the mid lane, and it can give more priority to like the duo lane, especially because they definitely want to try to Burgerflip dual lane from being able to play the game.
And we know how Seismic is a demon on Gideon. But what I'm also noticing with the heroes that are on the board right now, we see that there's a lot of mobility. You know that Gideon's able to portal himself in and out of team fights. He can easily escape from a gank. But the same thing can be said about Decker as well as Aurora, who can do the same thing. They can initiate and engage. We can see that there could be initiations and engagements from all of these heroes on the board.
Definitely can be so far. I think Gideon's biggest strength, especially in the hands of Seismic, is that he can just easily rotate over to the side lanes. Usually they like to play that style where they have a fast pushing mid and then transition that lead over to a side lane. For the side of Burgerflip, we see the Steel being picked up together with the Drongo. Steel can deflex jungle offlane. I think both are pretty viable, especially considering how that offlane pool has been shortened quite a bit. I do think that yesterday we did see on broadcast one game with a Steel against an Aurora in that offlane where the Aurora kind of ran away with it. So needs to be careful of that if it's actually an offlane. Otherwise, there was no mid lane pick. So with the next sort of bans coming in, I think this is still an opportunity for Doctors to shrink that pool. Maybe get rid of some of the counter picks that Gideon has. Thinking of the Howitzer in that regard, or potentially even the gadget.
Yeah, and Burgerflip again just playing really hard for the duo, securing like the dual lane right there. Decker with her really high damage, high mobility, and Drongo's like very high performance, high burst damage from yesterday. So if they can land the combos, the Drongo Decker can put in some serious work. And I'm hoping that is a Steel jungle and not offlane, because I did touch on the fact that Went2 Game is more like a tank jungler. If that's like a Steel offlane and then Went2 Game decides I want to do Went Page jungle, you gotta be really tanky, but you're gonna really have no damage, which is gonna be like kind of cripple the like damage output and how they're gonna be able to secure kills throughout all stages of the game. But the Mirio pick from the Doctor is actually a pretty dang good pickup, especially when paired with Aurora. Like I think Aurora can get some really nasty like engagements, because if they can coordinate with the Mirio and Gideon TP, Aurora can take the Gideon TP, use their own mobility to get and Mirio on top of that, and there's all the CC chain that can go in. They have some really nutty combos already from the Doctors. And yep, the mid laners haven't been picked from the Burgerflip, so Doctor's gonna ban out the gadget. Gadget's kind of like a surprise pick for most of us, for the fact that like she's haven't really been like a really popular pick in past tournaments, but in this tournament alone, she's actually shown to be a very strong pick in the mid lane.
And some people actually prioritized her by picking her first. And we saw that from yesterday, how much of what her advantages are when she's a part of someone's team comp. But we see the ban coming in from the Twin Blast, and you're seeing the Kira being picked up by the Doctors.
Kira pickup is one of those aggressive duo lanes that we were highlighting before. With the Muriel backing her up, she's gonna do just fine, especially against sort of the damage coming out of the Drongo Decker lane. So I think that is going to be an interesting lane to watch, especially after level 6. And we did see Doctors with Sihi split push a lot on that Muriel as well. Allows a lot of global presence, allows to the Muriel in those later stages of the game to also push the side lanes, give them one more avenue to actually play those fights. Now it's Burgerflip's time to pick. They still haven't picked their mid laner. They also still have either the offlaner or the jungle open. I think the crunch can also go in both directions. Howitzer is sort of a traditional traditionally a decent pick into Gideon, though with the big hitbox it's pretty easy to hit those kill shots as the Gideon. So I personally don't love it. I think I would have preferred the Iggy still. Also, like, increases the amount of volatility that Iggy pretty much plays for himself in most of these fights. As long as you can position safely, you're always gonna have the damage. But with those pickups, I think they had a decent draft. I personally think that Howitzer has to do a lot of heavy lifting though. Very sort of AD focused that entire draft. But I think it mainly depends what Doctors is actually gonna pick here for the offlane or jungle role.
Yeah, I also agree that I do think the Iggy skill should be a more ideal pick of the Howitzer because Burgerflip almost have a really decent all-around team comp, but with the Howitzer last pick, he's more like a single target burst mage. It doesn't really offer high sustained damage, and right now that's sort of what Burgerflip is lacking. They have all the CC from the deck and steel, but they'll lack the sustained damage. You can't rely on the crunch to do your sustained damage because he's easily gonna be like focused pretty early on in those like team fights, and sometimes he can just get blown up before he can even lift a single finger, right? But Doctor is gonna be picking up Sevog as the last pick right there. It's kind of interesting because I think that's going to be a still offlane matchup to a potential Aurora offlane. I think that would have been like a very good matchup for the Doctors, but it looks like they might actually put Sevog there instead potentially. I haven't really seen Sevog jungle a whole lot except that one game where he struggled immensely. So I do think that the Sevog has to be offlane because if you do jungle, you're going to lose a lot of early game tempo, and that can cost you games as we saw from yesterday.
And he opens himself up for a lot of invasions in his own jungle if that is where he's going. But game number 1, ladies and gentlemen, get your points in because we are watching Burgerflip versus the Doctors. Now it's time to share the spotlight with Ego and F6.
Gamers, welcome to game 1 of day 2. It's me, your boy Ego, rocking with you, but I'm never rocking alone. It's the E-squared combo because I got the man, the myth, the legend, F6 in the booth with me. How you feeling, man?
Dude, I'm feeling good, Ego. I cannot wait to get into the first game of day number 2. This is where the competition starts to heat up, working to get themselves into the main event. And we know the Doctors are definitely trying to get themselves back where they were before.
Oh, 100%, but the competition does look like it could potentially be very stiff after that draft. You can see both of these teams definitely looking into a couple synergies that can win them some of these fights around Fangtooth, around Prime, and the only thing that's guaranteed in the game is the early game, so I'm super excited to see how they start off this performance.
Yeah, we saw that Mario Kara combo inside of that dual lane. We already know that dual lane is a competition in itself. Picking up with the Cure is going to be amazing with Z. He's going to be able to help out. That damage is going to be unreal, especially when Kira starts to get online.
And as we begin to make our way onto the battlefield for game 1, I'm going to get into your mental right off the back, F6. Which one of these team compositions, in your opinion, do you favor?
I mean, to be honest, it's going to have to be the Doctors. I cannot get over the Gideon. Gideon is one of my favorite by far. He's able to increase the fight tenfold just by simply just being able to increase the verticality of the fight. You're going to have to fight in 2 different places, either up or down, and that already causes enough commotion to stir up any team fight.
I couldn't agree with you more, man. Having to take on a fight on the verticality as someone that's also directly in front of you looking to burn you down can be something intimidating, and if you're not mechanically sound enough, can just set you up for failure ultimately. And that's where we're going to be making our way into the early phases of the game. Junglers looking to get their camps, and laners all looking to see who establishes pressure first. Do you think there's going to be any key players in particular that we should keep our eye on?
I mean, for me, it's going to be Sneaks. Prior to this, he switched in PCC7 off into the off lane. He was a prior mid player, and I mean, he's one of those players that kind of just make plays happen, and he is on that Sevrog. If he's able to scale into that mid to late game, you're going to see his rotations be impactful to everything that the Doctors do.
Yeah, and he is such a skilled and experienced player who knows how to win. And on this Sevarog pick with the combination of that Colossal Blow and Subjugate, he's going to be able to help set the tempo of some of these engages if he's able to throw out maybe somebody like this Drongar and Decker out of their positioning. But you have to be able to scale to that point, so maybe we see a little bit of pressure get put on that solo lane.
We're going to have to find out for sure, but it is going to be with the crunch. I know he's going to be able to do a lot of damage though, but he's going to have to get to level 6 first to really be impactful against that Sevarog. And Sevarog has a little bit of mobility to his kit, and with that subjugate, might be able to lock down the crunch from really potentially getting towards him.
Yeah, and Crunch is another character. I mean, what is to be said about the Wally with an attitude adjustment? He can just CC lock you down to the ground, and when he does hit that level 6, the damage translation that's going to come along with it is going to be absolutely ferocious. As we do see a little bit of a conflict now going down as Aurora is going to find Crunch. The damage translation seems to be solid, but it is not going to be a full committal as Ranting Gamer is going to have to run away from Seismic, but the teleport is going to come up good, but the blink is possibly going to be better as he's going to be looking to create space. Howitzer going to be able to get some damage off on him, but Seismic is not going to give up as he locks down first blood.
And Ranting thought he had the advantage over Aurora there, but was not enough. He did use the blink, but didn't really go too far with that blink, and it's just going to cause the death with that mobility coming out of the torn space to keep at him and be able to pick that up.
Man, Doctor's 100% down with the sickness, able to expend a few resources to get that first blood, but also it's going to leave Crunch a little bit more vulnerable if he does get caught out like that again. They instantly saw the opportunity, and they were in chase down mode the entire time, F6.
And not only that, this puts him a little bit behind to where he wants to be. We talked about how he needs to hit level 6, and with that first blood towards him, this is going to give him a little bit more advantage to Mav picking up that assist and Gideon also being able to pick up that kill. Gold Bounty is going to be impactful into that mid lane. Let's see the second kill coming out of Sneaks as a player that we're saying to watch out for.
Oh man, it's a solo bolo, and Sneaks and Seismic already making a double S tier statement within the earlier phases of the game, talking about the latter name, Seismic. All of these players have a very strong foundation, but things get a little bit shaky when Seismic is added into the mix, especially considering he does get that first blood.
I mean, Seismic's one of those players. Let's not even talk about the Gideon itself. He's a classic Pred enthusiast. He's been here since the dawn of time, retired many times, but still always playing in PCC. And his experience just kind of brings such a different level towards whatever team he's on. He's able to pilot anything throughout the mid lane, and he knows exactly what he needs to do.
We've seen him hit some flex picks that I personally did not anticipate and still be absolutely devastating on them. It is definitely a large part of prowess as we're going to see over to the solo lane. Sneaks is going to be able to get another kill as we see a setup of the ambush coming out of Crunch, looking to possibly get it back in blood onto Mav, but not looking a full commit. It's just going to be a disengaged call from both sides.
Not quite too sure what happened over there, but I do know that Sneaks picked up another kill, and that's on the late game Sevarog. But hold on a second, Margaret Robbie goes down inside the dual lane, and Drizzy has to be forced out on that blink.
The violence has been turned all the way up to 10 here as both of these teams are going to be looking for the smoke. And right now, it's looking like Burgerflip may have asthma. They're struggling under all this pressure that we can see evidently as Seismic is going to be making the rotation over onto the back end, though. It is going to be Howitzer, but not a full commit out of either one of these teams, as we're going to be using a Blast Flower to get out of dodge.
I mean, great play coming out of Seismic. They're able to utilize pushing into wave into the Howitzer there, allowing him to contest that 2 camp to stop the Crunch from farming equivalently to where he needs to be. We already talked about he's a little bit behind, and just a little bit of antagonizing to keep him down for a little bit longer to try and get Mav to just skyrocket.
Oh my god, the instantaneous wall in combination with the black hole is going to force the blink out of the Howitzer in the middle, who's already been trying to help its team respond to some of the pressure, and now himself without the blink, he is going to be the victim of it. It looks like the Docs are trying to drown their opponents as Sneaks is going to be looking for the violence. The subjugate is going to land, but playing so close to the tower on steel, I don't think the kill potential is going to be really here.
Not quite yet, but you can see what Sneaks is trying to do. He's trying to let Zay know that he's here to play. He's going to have to fight for his right to win, but look at this dual lane.
Oh my god, dude. Cure just absolutely laying down the damage. We can see that bonus proc coming out of the Kira kit, but it's not going to be quite enough to lock down a kill. And throughout every single lane, you can see that mysterious 6th teammate making their presence known. And that's going to be momentum because the Doctors have all of it right now.
They sure do, and that's why you see the 7-minute Fang looking at Mav going after his objective. He needs to be careful though. Muriel just took it back, and Cure is not healthy or anything, and that's why you're going to see him retreat here as the rotation comes on in.
Instantly understanding, hey man, this is not a good idea. Let's get a reset and maybe look for a pick before we make a rotation onto that also very valuable Fangtooth with Howitzer. Now dropping the ult, they're going to be looking to put themselves on the board, which they will, as the Ranting Gamer is going to be able to get a run through and a kill onto Aurora. Playing the space onto the back end, it's going to be Seismic forced to retreat, but with the Muriel present, he should be safe close to the tower line.
And just getting caught out in the jungle there, we already talked about just a little bit of highlight on why that play was bad, going after the Fangtooth with your dual lane backing. Yes, they had the wave pushed in to create a little bit more pressure on that lane, but hold on a second. Here comes Cure to try and possibly pick up Gi, but the damage and the CC is not there.
We're looking at the doctors on an expedition. I'm talking about Indiana Jones because these guys are searching, hunting for kills throughout the entirety of this game. And so far, they've been able to find them. Having that 4-kill lead short up to 3 is definitely not what they want to see, but they're still in such a dominant position.
And Ranting looking for something here. Huge uppercut.
It does look like he's going to find it. The support is going to be able to help their carry play the space, but it's going to be an exchange of mobility for mobility as Ranting Gamer finds the kill onto the Cure. Now, Muriel is going to be left all alone as we're going to see a little bit of robot-on-robot violence, and Seismic makes his apparatus, his appearance into the dual lane and gets the kill onto the Ranting Gamer.
Man, what a rotation coming out of Seismic there, being able to pick up, knowing he had enough space there to rotate over, has the mobility to help pick that up. Over there, though, Ranting Gamer was able to pick up the kill on Cure, but stayed a little bit too long, got a little bit too greedy to cause his death there.
Oh man, absolutely getting recycled by Seismic, who's going to have a pretty poignant lead now at this point, having had been threatened, but every time being able to escape while capitalizing on the kills and possible overextensions. Right now, we may be looking at Seismic getting his groove, F6.
I mean, that's the last thing you want. Seismic on the Gideon, getting into a flow and just getting into his mentee and psyche to be in this game, because we know the mid lane is really where the play starts to happen. And there it is, a single dingle coming in at 9 minutes.
Dude, we're supposed to be playing Pred, but Gideon's working the IHOP line because he is stacking the opposition, and the value is coming up pretty sweet as Zihi is going to get eyes on Ranting Gamers on the backside, discourage him from making that rotation, not really wanting to take the potential 2v2 or 3v3 as we're seeing now multiple members converge on the Fangtooth.
Yeah, there, look at Drizzy though, looking for something to cage him. Mav is low.
He's so very low, but also pretty far now from anyone able to do substantial damage to him. It does look like we are going to see a 1-0 trade here in favor of Burgerflip, who has once again been able to kill down that threshold, that differential between the teams to only 3, and now have taken priority on the Fangtooth.
I mean, Seismic is still here. The black hole is still available at any moment now.
Yeah, it's going to come up big here as we are going to see Seismic looking to get a little poke on the damage, teleporting over to the side. They're going to actually just give up the Fangtooth and maybe look for something afterwards, but it doesn't look like they're going to find it as Margot Robbie is going to be able to get the kill onto Zihi. I don't really understand that play. They didn't look for the engage, but they did look to create space so they couldn't get engaged upon, and ultimately, they're just going to lose a life and that Fangtooth while picking up this mid tower.
Yeah, I don't get it. Seismic chose to just kind of go around the Fangtooth to chase after Drizzy and not able to pick up that kill. And Margaret Robbie's going to be able to pick one up. They do get the tier 1 in mid as a consolation prize. We know it's only the one Fangtooth, but there was prime opportunity to at least get a little bit more kills out of that and still get that tier 1.
A very odd play coming out of the docks here, as like the symptoms of the cold, they decided they just wanted to linger, and ultimately it ended up being them who needed the cure in that instance. But it's just one play out of the many, but ultimately an objective lead that still does go in the pockets of the Burgerflip boys.
I mean, there's still going to be a play, and Seismic here's up, and there's that black hole. Margaret Robbie. Ooh.
So very low, and it does look like he's going to fall here inevitably as Cure does get the kill onto him. BBL Drizzy not able to do much with that plasma pole expended. There's not going to be any CC peel that would have been able to save his life, nor likely this tower as it's going to fall.
Yeah, I mean, another great rotation coming out of Seismic, utilizing that mobility to get the impact throughout the map. They were unable to get the Fangtooth, and he says, you know what, we're going to come back over towards this side of the map, and we're going to take this tier 1.
Yeah, they take it now. Having 2 tier 1s down, they are going to feel a little bit more comfortable making a rotation onto an objective themselves, securing the positioning around the Prime Pit. We're going to see Mav and Zihi start the mini Prime and possibly take it, but we do see a little bit of blue from the Burgerflip boys as they may be looking to contest. It's going to be Ranting Gamer in with the first initial dash, and however, it is not going to be stolen. Instead, his life is going to be taken instantaneously. It's a cooking commercial because that boy got melted like butter.
Yeah, he definitely got flipped once or twice as well because he just got instantly deleted trying to steal that objective. Great pickup. Smite coming out of map to be able to secure that. And now they have the mini orb prime. And look at this. The tower, the wave is pushing on this offlane.
Dude, it's one tier 1 after another. We took mid, we took duo, and now we're gonna meander our way into the solo because our Sephiroth is stacked up and Geek is now gonna be able to rotate to help alleviate some of this pressure like he has done previously within this game. However, the kill potential is there as Seismic is actually going to get caught out. This could be a solid shutdown, but not before Seismic gets his on Tony Stark in the first two. The reversal of fortune is going to come down in order to buy him a little bit of time. Seismic may live as on the back end, Muriel is going to be forced to expend her blink, but with Cure here, this could be a reversal of fortune truly as the aggression is going to fall into the palms of the Doctor, forcing the blink out of the crunch onto the back end. The Subjugate just barely offline, but they're going to be inside the tower as Margot Robbie is going to be the ending of her acting career falling down. We're looking at a 2-0 trade in favor of the Doctors.
What a trade of events there. You saw that Seismic was able to pick up the kill even though he was in a bad position. Reversal of fortune. Zihi, what a play coming out to be able to sustain the little bit of health left on Seismic to help him escape. But the rotation from Cure, stopping that damage coming out of Crunch and forcing him back and forcing that blink.
Dude, I mean, the name of the reversal of fortune has never been so true. Gideon looking isolated all alone and actually saving his teleport until the reversal of fortune was coming through to make sure that Muriel would not be in a terrible position, gives them the time, the health, the damage they need with Muriel, Kira, and Gideon all uniting, forcing them back, and then utilizing the subjugate and pressure and tankiness from the Sephiroth to be able to lock down multiple kills.
I mean, what a team. They're playing together right now, and it's unbelievable. There for a second, Burgerflip was looking like they were going to be able to mount a comeback. I mean, they still have that Fangtooth. The objective lead is still 1-1, but we know the Fangtooth, you're playing the long game with that. And if they can sustain just a little bit more towards the objective, I feel like they're going to be able to keep themselves alive.
I do feel like Burgerflip has at least taken the first steps in mitigating some of the bleeding that's been occurring after this operation the Doctor has put on them. And that's being able to lock down some of the objectives. We have seen teams absolutely fall apart when they get 1-2 Fangtooths down in combination with the mini Prime. All the pressure and more importantly, all of their map presence is eradicated in the face of that. So seeing Burgerflip being able to at least get that first Fangtooth does sing merrily for this team's potential as they look to scale into the mid and late game.
I mean, they don't necessarily have too much when it comes towards this scaling opposed to the Doctors, because we know that 7, that Kira is going to be insane as we see Sneaks looking for this.
It's going to be a full committer there on Tazay's as we do see still having to utilize that bull rush to create space for himself. And that's something that you definitely don't want to see for Burgerflip. Your Cruncher still having to use their mobility and engage tools to just get away from some of the poke pressure as now. We're going to see Sneaks leading the Stampede onto this Fangtooth as they're going to be looking to even it up 1-1.
There it is, ladies and gentlemen, denying the third Fangtooth possibility from Burgerflip, and that is what the Doctors needed to do to help them going into the later parts of this game. They already have the T1s. They already going to be able to pick up 2 objectives to 1 towards the Burgerflip, and they're now slowly taking control of this game.
Dude, they're taking all of your towers. They're going to be taking some of these objectives, and more importantly, they're taking down your economy because you can farm when you're the gray zone in the base when you are looking at the death screen, something that this team is so apt at being able to do. They've been able to control the pace, and I think as they keep on getting value incrementally throughout this match, we're going to see the momentum of the aggression skyrocket from what we've already seen.
Yeah, because we're just going to start to get into these team fight phases, right? We're 17 minutes in about 3 minutes, we're going to have the big objective come on up, the big orb prime, and then one more Fangtooth, the primordial, is going to be there as well. And we're going to see these teams really try to battle for these big objectives, because we know these big objectives, if you're able to win one, you're able to turn this game around in your favor. If you're behind or if you're docs, just keep pushing on and keep that pressure applied.
In order to win potentially one of these big objective plays, though, for Burgerflip, I'm going to get in your mindset and F6 ask you, what do you think they need to do? Is it going to be the aggression they put onto Cure her, as we're actually going to see in response, Kira is going to be bursting down BBL, looking possibly for the 2v1, as one of them may fall and a second one is on the chopping block. He's just better.
I mean, the 2-to-1 is crazy work over in the duo lane, just not scared of anything, able to pick it on up. And if any second later he was able to get close and that wave was not there, he was definitely going to get that double.
Dude, Kira subtracting HP from, as we are going to see Severar looking to do the same. Autosays, the subjugate is going to be big, and we are seeing these players subtract team members and ultimately make the difference on both sides of the map.
The impact, we talked about Sneaks, look out for him, but what on a second, Ranting Gamer trying to get aggressive, and I don't think this is what you want to do, but Sneaks playing out of his absolute mind in this off lane.
Yes, he is, as we are going to see now BBO Jersey in combination with Margot Robbie are going to be looking to just suppress some of the violence, some of the anger, some of the kill potential that this team and the Doctors seems to just have on a whim. Let's send two, not nearly enough. Let's send our tank into the other one. Maybe he can stifle some of the rage. Wait, why is he getting bursted down by the Sevarog? I know that the Docs used to be the professors at this moment because they are forcing the enemy team to look to a solution for the problems they're presenting.
I mean, what can you ask for? We talked about how experienced this team is. We talked about how they're just trying to get themselves back into this main event, and it starts with every single game, and it's going to start with game number 1. But let's look at it. 19 minutes in, they're looking at the second mini prime to be able to get that on the Sevarog. Going to allow him to keep his sustain and pressure inside that lane, pushing towards possibly that tier 2.
Yeah, man, and at this point, it more becomes how well can you react, because every instance of you trying to be proactive for Burgerflip seems to have not gone the best. And if you can maybe capitalize on an overextension, maybe you bring 3 instead of the 2 to get a gank onto this Kira, you can get yourself a bounty or at least a little gold or alleviate some of the pressure that the Doctors have been putting on throughout this game. F6, it's going to be a tough situation, though, either way, as Burgerflip definitely has an uphill mountain to climb.
Oh, 100%, but look at this. Ranting Gamer in a bad spot.
Oh, man, and he's going to catch some of the Aurora Taz onto the back end. He's going to be forced to utilize his blink to avoid the black hole. This could be a really good turn of fortune if they do get a lockdown kill onto Seismic here, who is stuck between a rock and a hard place. But with Muriel making impact, the knockup is going to be enough to sterilize some of the damage that the Doctors have been putting down onto them. And you won't believe it. It looks like we haven't even seen a kill trade yet.
Not just quite yet. The reversal of fortune came just in time. They tried to push in through that small corridor and everybody got popped up, and that's going to stop anything from coming through. And Seismic barely able to escape there. Zay does not have the damage to really burst him down.
Oh, so very close to being able to get that kill onto Seismic, but it almost feels like he just gets more armor. He just gets even more mechanically sound the closer you get that HP bar to being emptied out. Barely making his way out of that is largely attributed, though, to the Muriel play there. These reversal of fortunes have been on time, as we now see they're going to be on the prime and maybe looking to burst it down without any contention.
I mean, we see that Ranting Gamer is over on the Fangtooth trying to get a consolation prize. We know the big orb prime is going to be used to siege against BFI. But at the same time, Docs really just have too much control. So Burgerflip is going to have to just take that Fangtooth, and hopefully they can get to a later part of the game where they can group up and really change the tides.
Yeah, and I want to kind of get in your head, say F6, for getting into that later phase of the game. Who are they going to be able to play through? Because as you said, Sevarog, I mean, at this point of the game is a menace, an absolute terror. And with that prime buff on top of him, he's not going to be unstoppable. He's going to be the next closest thing. Who do you think has to be the one to be able to lock him down? Because he has just been such a sound engager along with Gideon following him up.
I mean, they're just gonna have to use that containment fence from the Decker, able to lock him down in a small place for a little bit of while, try and have that howitzer burst him down, even though he's on a 28-second cooldown right now. They're able to pick up that kill in mid lane. They're gonna have to find something here.
Oh my god, and there's going to be the Colossal Blow in combination with the Subjugate as BBO Drizz is going to find himself in a rock in a hard place, and the rock is coming from getting able to lock down the kill, chasing them into the core. There's going to be 2 members already dead and looking for a third, in which they will find. It is going to be the doctors who give the enemy team in Burgerflip a prescription in L and take down the core after they're done taking the members. This is going to be a W going in favor of the docs.
The doctors wrote their prescription down. You can't read it, but it's definitely an L headed towards Burgerflip here. What a game coming out of them. They're here confident. Day number 2, ready to get themselves into this main event.
They are locked and loaded. You can see they went to medical school because they were sick throughout the entirety of that game. And like a virus, it spread between the lanes within the early game. We're going to put some pressure on you in solo. We're going to give you a little bit of a rotation in the duo. And even when it feels like you're close to crawling black, well, this is a different degree of focus that they were bringing in F6.
Yeah, we talked about Sneak's early game to watch out for, and he's definitely a factor. Not having to worry about one of your lanes is just absolutely great for your jungler. Mal was just like, hey, Sneaks, you got this, keep that pressure up. And then throughout that, he was able to rotate throughout the rest of the map. Rain team couldn't keep up, and Cure, the man, taking on anybody he wanted to in the entire game, just allowed for the doctors to keep pushing on.
Yes, sir, man. Congratulations to both of these teams. They played absolutely phenomenally, and I'm very excited to see what the doctors have in store for us as they are going to be taking one step closer to progressing to a potential PCC8 championship. However, there's only one thing I'm more excited to see than what they do next, and that's what the desk has to say.
Welcome back to the desk. Thank you so much, Ego and F6. My name is Ardog with the Triple G's. I'm joined by Joey and Tang. That was game 1 between Burgerflip and Doctors, with Doctors coming out on top. So currently they're 1-0. Joey highlighted this in the desk earlier when we were talking about the draft. You know, we're looking at this team comp. There just doesn't seem to be enough damage coming from the Burger Flippers, and that was evident from what we saw from game 1.
Yeah, I think it definitely was, especially with those early picks sort of towards that Sevarog that was just unkillable towards the later stages. But I think it's also just the fast tempo that Doctors plays with. It's really hard to respond as sort of a newer team on the block to respond to all the plays happening across the map. I think that's why Doctors games are always fun to watch, because they are not going to stay idle, right? They're going to go offlane, they're going to go dual lane. All the tier 1s were already down at 12 minutes in the game, because we see Seismic rotating over everywhere. We see Sneaks make the mid rotations as well. And honestly, the Cure play right there, getting the 1 versus 2 outplay, I think that is just a nail in the coffin. Just honestly, Doctors really well played. A really fun game to watch, even though it was pretty one-sided.
Yeah, it was a very aggressive game by the Doctors, but that's just because from the 5-minute mark, every lane from Burgerflip just kind of losing, right? Because we know the dual lane is kind of like the win condition. They will definitely struggle against the dual lane from the Doctors, but even that mid lane that's always have a consistent performance was also struggling too. And then that steel matchup to the Sevarog was also losing pretty hard too. So at 5 minutes, you should see the mid laner and jungle just invading the 2 campsite on the west side. And they just constantly invade because Burgerflip just can't punch that. They're not strong and anywhere on the map. They don't have the strength to really just do anything about that. So it was just complete control by the Doctors from start to finish.
The Doctors are a seasoned team, and they know how to keep pressure in all the lanes, which is what you stated, Joey. All the side lanes, whether that be the duo, the off lane, but the mid lane was also having a fun time. Cure might be a new ADC over in the Doctors, but their jungler Mav had an easier time invading Ranting Gamer. I think that we'll have to see more of the Doctors, and I think they might be able to. They have potential to come out of the Swiss stages.
They definitely do, right? Like Mav invading as an Aurora against the Crunch, I think that's not something you want to see, because if you get pushed out of your own jungle as the Crunch, it's already kind of doomed. Crunch, famously known as one of those duelist heroes that wants to get a bit of an elite early, because in those later stages of the game, he always has to play secondary engage, can't really frontline as well as other heroes, can't really be the primary engage either. So as the Crunch, you want to build your elites early, you want to transition that into the mid lane, transition that into one of your lanes. If you're the one getting pushed out of your jungle in like pre 10 minutes, as Joey was saying, right, it's just kind of doomed at that point already. And I think Ranting Gamer, looking at his gameplay, right, like he honestly did nothing wrong. Like looking at his play, it's like, yeah, your mid lane dies, yeah, your offlane dies, yeah, you can't farm anymore, it is what it is. One of those games happens. I'm actually not that worried about them looking at how they played though, because I think if they can show up on a few of those weaknesses, I think they're gonna have a great time against some of the other teams.
Yeah, Ranting Gamer is like, again, more traditionally tank play, but he actually did some decent work on the coins. It's just kind of unfortunate that all of his other like teammates had a really hard time against the Doctors, right? And so I think the team right here still has potential to move forward, but like they'll still have a really rocky performance so far. They really need to like get the game together and try to get these W's in, because any more losses could spell the end of their time here in the PCC tournament.
You're right, because they're currently 0-1. I mean, we have a total of 5 rounds here in our second round of Swiss stages. Don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen, because we'll be right back with game number 2 here at the PCC.